Saying goodbye to a friend is never easy. When that friend impacted a huge number of people, touched so many, and helped create something wonderful that continues to affect so many people, it's even more difficult. We're saying goodbye to Troy Hanson. For those that knew Troy, you know where I'm going. For those that didn't, he was an advocate for the design trade, more specifically the co-founder of West Edge Design Fair, and to many of us, an amazing friend. Today, I wanted to invite Megan Riley, the co-founder of West Edge, on to help me. Process isn't the right word. There's no way to process this. Troy was so young, and a wonderful, wonderful person. But today I just wanted to have her on and talk about Troy a little bit. So you're going to hear that, and then you're going to hear my first conversation with both Megan and Troy on Convo by Design from 2017. It's never easy to say goodbye, but I hope remembering him with us and then hearing his voice again might help ease the pain for those who knew him and called him a friend. It's bittersweet doing this because it's sad to say goodbye to a friend, but it's heartening to have an opportunity to sort of remember all the good times and remember what you've been through with people. Now, you and Troy have a very, very long history, far longer than mine with him. We started working together in, I don't know, 2016, 2017, 2016, I think. And I'm going to, after we talk, I'm going to play the first time we all got together. It was at the Pacific Design Center. I want to say it was during Fall Market. It was either Fall Market or West Week, but I think it was during Fall Market. And we were. Do you remember that upstairs?
I do remember
floor?
it. Yep, I do.
I remember at the time thinking that Troy is always so. I felt like he was so guarded. Just in discussing everything. And it wasn't until, you know what it was? It was after the first West Edge working together, because when people go to the show, they go to the party, they get to enjoy themselves. But very few actually see the beginning or the end. Yeah. And that, I feel, showcased some of Troy's strengths, his warmth, his ability to problem solve.
Yeah, he was guarded, I guess, in a way that you say. He was really an introvert, and that surprises a lot of people because, people think, but he was always so nice and charming and chummy, and he's in sales, and he was a wonderful salesperson, one of the best I've ever known. And in the event world, of course, you think you have to be an extrovert to have produced all of these events. But deep down, he really was a private person, an introvert. And he shunned away from the spotlight. I mean, he used to give me the side eye so many times when I would say, come on, we need to get our headshots. We need to get on the red carpet. We need a photo of you. He hated having his photo taken. He just never wanted to be the center of attention in a good way. He was just so humble. And his favorite parts of our business and working with him was really helping exhibitors and clients one-on-one, hearing their stories and having those relationships offline. Where do you want to go? What representation, what partnerships? Let me make a phone call. Let me make an introduction. It was really the behind the scenes. And obviously during the show, what you saw, Josh, was his ability and willingness and wantingness to get gritty, roll up his sleeves, help out on site with all of the production elements. And he was the go-to person. Everybody knew him. And knew that if they had a question, he would know the answer. And even if you remember that one show, I remember this because I remember you made a comment about it. And we wanted to do it the following year when he was pushing that grocery cart around with all of the, leftover bottles of wine from the day before and just handing out, glasses of wine, cups of wine, during move out. And that, for him to be serving, pushing around a grocery cart in a pair of jeans and a t-shirt, offering all of our exhibitors a beer or a glass of wine as they were, sweating it out to get out of the hangar that night. That's just who he was. He was very salt of the earth.
Yeah, it's interesting too because there are people that come in and out of all of our lives, right? I mean, we meet people, we engage, we work, we do things together, and then sometimes sometimes people just slip away and go about their own way, and it's one of these things. It's a kinetic kind of conversations like these make me really think about life, and the people who come in and go out of your life, and Troy's one of those people who, every year at West Edge. It's funny because we've been working together for so long that some things are very much the same, but they're always different in a one way or another. But it's always this when things are most stressful. That's always when I've kind of seen Troy. You know what I mean? He would just
Yeah.
sort of come by and go, "Hey, how's everything?
Yeah. Yeah.
How's it going? What do and it was always, what do you need? How can I help?"
Yeah.
He's one of those people who's always come in at the time when things are most stressful. Usually, when people are running the other way,
Yeah.
he was coming in.
Yeah. He was. And he was just a quiet strength and a reassuring presence. To your point, he kind of had a calm about him that calmed others. And there were many occasions where he was right up into the last minute, helping out, painting, taping, helping an exhibitor hang their signage. And uh, there was one occasion where Vanessa Kojovinas, it was opening time. People were showing up for our opening night party, and Troy was still in like grubby clothes and sweat dripping down his face. And she said, "Troy, you've got to go. You've got to go shower. Get out of here now." And of course, like 20 minutes, he returns, showered, suited up, looking like dapper as ever. And you would have never guessed that just, 15, 20 minutes prior to that, he was in the state that he was in.
Yeah, I had some of my most I don't want to call them important, but for me, most memorable conversations with Troy right between, I would say, right when the pandemic started through. So many people don't know. I don't think I've talked about it much, but I moved to Tulsa during the pandemic as part of Tulsa Remote. And for people who still aren't familiar with Tulsa Remote, it's this program where there's a stipend that they pay you, and if you're a remote worker, you come to Tulsa. And Troy came first, and I think you were considering it for.
I was for a short while. Yeah.
Yeah. But Troy came first, and I actually found out about it from him. He said, "Hey, listen, there's this thing. I moved to Tulsa, and I'm really enjoying it, and I think you might too." And I think that that's one of those things which is, Megan, there's just not enough of that. People saying, "Hey, I got a good thing, and I think it might be a good thing for you too. It's something you should look into. Let me know if I can provide any information." That's a gift, right? When somebody offers you something like that. And that's one of the things that I love most about Troy was that he was a true honest giver. And I remember too that we had some even deeper conversations. First you talk to the people from Tulsa Remote, and then they bring you out to Tulsa and you get to experience it. Well, keep in mind that this was happening at the height of the pandemic. And Troy did not care for the pandemic. I think it's
Yeah,
I
especially
think
moving
it's
to a
safe to
new
say.
town like that. I mean, it had to be hard for him, and I think you were a little bit later in the pandemic life cycle, but he moved when people were still in lockdown. And I think that was very isolating, even though he appreciated the quiet time and, spending time not out and about. It was a strange, strange time to be moving to a new city and trying to, integrate on your own.
Yeah, yeah. And what was cool about it was I came out as he was kind of entering the end of his 1 year term, and we bought a house out here in Tulsa, and it's got a huge backyard. And I remember on a couple of occasions just saying, "Hey, Troy, you wanna come over? You wanna come over and take your mask off and just like
Mm-hmm.
be a person away from other people and just sort of hang out." And I think he relished that a lot when he would come over. And that's when we had some really great conversations about kind of like what we do and what we're doing and why it matters and what he hoped it would become and what he wanted it to be. And I feel like that's a lost art, is being able to just sort of sit with somebody without any media and without any expectations. And that's one thing that I really, really will miss about Troy, was his willingness to just sort of stop down and say, "Hey, yeah, what do you want to talk about?"
Yeah. Yeah. Especially, in this industry, you have a lot of colorful personalities. And now with social media, it's all about, projecting, projecting your brand and sharing. And you're absolutely right. Those were some of the best times, was just kind of being real and, one on one with Troy.
Yeah, and I think that there aren't enough people like him in our industry, at a time when everyone's about likes and clicks and how much of this and how much of that and what's the new trend and what's the latest fad. And I remember vividly when we first spoke in 2017 on camera about what the idea for West Edge would be. And I keep going back to West Edge because, you and Troy Durst are inextricably tied to this event. And from the very beginning, it was established for positive reasons,
Yeah.
to create something and create something new. And I don't think we talk about that enough, what it means.
Well, the origin story at the time, Troy Hanson and I were coworkers in New York. We were producing the Architectural Digest design show, which he helped launch. And I moved to New York in 2005 to start working with Troy Hanson. And we were getting these conversations every day with our exhibitors. When are you going to do something like this on the West Coast? We would love to see a show like this in LA. There's nothing like it. And we actually pitched the idea to our parent company, and they were not necessarily expanding. They were kind of doing just the opposite. And Troy and I had really been, the face of our company in New York. The company was headquartered in Chicago. So he and I had been a team for years. And so that's when we just decided, hey, if they don't want to do it, we could do this on our own. And so we submitted our resignation letters. Literally, we drafted them together. Like he reviewed it, I reviewed it. Our offices were side by side, and we hit send within minutes of each other. And it was almost like we were high-fiving each other, at the time, like, okay, are we doing this? Yeah, we're doing this. And so that first year, we were so scrappy. We were still keeping our places in New York, bouncing back and forth between the West Coast and the East Coast, and living in Airbnbs every time we were out in California, trying a new neighborhood, trying to get a feel, a lay of the land, West Hollywood versus Venice versus Woodland Hills even. I mean, we were Silver Lake all over. And those were some of the most fun times with him, just ideating, the creative, the logo, the branding. And it really was out of the need and the ask from clients and exhibitors to do this, because they trusted us, and we had that backing coming from our past life, and they trusted Troy immensely So to already launch something knowing that you had a dozen companies who were following you was very rewarding. And it was all because of Troy's reputation.
And what's fun too is that Troy was a Rolling Stone. You know, I mean, I can't even tell you all the places he's lived. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
amount of times that he's moved. It reminds me of my early career. But he had he had this desire to keep moving, to keep experiencing, to go new places and do new things. And for those who knew him, they too were the beneficiaries of his experience because he was always willing to share it. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And he was such a good listener. You know, he lived in a lot of different places, but he also had a pulse of what was going on in Dallas and in Florida. And, you know, so often we were getting questions, hey, will you think about doing a show here or there, or where else are you looking to expand? And he wanted to understand those markets and understand what was going on in the industry firsthand. And you know, it speaks to his willingness to learn and to adapt and to, you know, having that spirit of adventure.
Yeah. And so it's far too early to even talk about it. Well, maybe it's not, but it's not too early to think about it. Um, I think, you know, it's May now and the show's in October. You've talked about doing something. Do you have any idea? And only because he was a Rolling Stone. I mean, you mentioned Tulsa, Dallas, Florida, Colorado, L.A.,
Denver, yeah,
New York. I mean, just all over the
yeah,
place. Um, and so many people knew him, and he really did touch so many people that this year doing something at West Edge, I think will be very special.
yeah. He loved living on the West Coast. He was casual, as you know, very, you know, calm, cool, and collected, and he loved wearing flip flops. So we are definitely doing something at West Edge in October to honor his memory. Um, we're also talking about how to honor it with something that he was so passionate about. He launched the MAID section in New York during the AD days. MAID is, as you know, Josh, and some of your listeners might not, was our section that was really all about makers and craftsmanship and solopreneurs and kind of the independent makers and artists who many are doing limited edition custom work. That was his favorite part of the show. We carried that into West Edge and we put a different spin on it. We called it Made Modern, and we still do. And so we are in talks to either establish a scholarship fund or to do something around that maker component of the show. Um, and then as you know too, he loved dogs. Every single year he was trying to get a sponsor to have a pet park, you know, doggy treats out in the outdoor lounge. And the Barker Hangar is dog friendly. So you'll see a lot of people walking around with their dogs. And he loved that about the venue and the show and just the openness and the friendliness of what we created. And so I don't know. One thing that this experience has really brought to light is how many people have been impacted by cancer, and just it's something that everyone I've talked to has a personal experience, a story, a friend, a family member, and so we're also considering how do we do something that honors not only Troy but advocacy for people who are going through this terrible disease. And maybe it's something, you know, some sort of charitable tie-in, perhaps with dog houses or something fun that kind of correlates to design and also Troy's love of dogs. So we're thinking a lot. And obviously if you have ideas or if others have ideas, we love kind of crowdsourcing and getting feedback as we develop things like that.
I love that, and I think that, you know, that's that's kind of how you keep your loved ones around. You know, that's how you keep your friends around. That's how you keep your loved ones around is by remembering them, and helping to keep their passions alive. I think that's a great idea. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be a very special show. It always, he is profoundly missed already. And I think, he's left a big, big hole. Our team, it's been a doozy. And I know he touched so many lives. He helped launch products. He helped launch people. He helped launch people's careers. He was such a bright light. And so we are definitely doing all we can to honor the legacy that he helped build with West Edge.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for doing this, and just for fun, we're gonna go back and listen to. I have so many, but I think I'll share the first one where we got together for the first time. Now, thanks for doing this.
Thank you, Josh.
I'm Josh Cooperman. This is Convo by Design. We are with Megan Riley and Troy Hanson from West Edge Design Fair. This was our second year working with you guys at West Edge, and what a fantastic event. Thank you for having us there. This was just great.
We were thrilled to have you as a media partner, so thanks for being on board and being there each day podcasting. It was great.
Yeah, for us too. So this was your third year doing this.
It was. We launched in 2013. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, at the Barker Hangar in Santa Monica, California. How did this get started?
Well, we were working together on an event in New York. Our former employer owned a show in New York that was sponsored by Architectural Digest. And for many years, our clients were asking us with increasing frequency to do something on the West Coast so that they could engage the A&D community here as well as at our show in New York. It became clear to us that our former employer was not going to expand to the West Coast, so we decided, given the increased number of requests we were getting, we decided to do it on our own.
So, and when you started putting this together, what was the vision behind curating the panels? Because you sort of you have two elements to this, right? You have the showroom floor, you have the floor where you have showrooms, designers, products, you have retailers, you've got all this going on, but then you've also curated this remarkable group of individuals to present these panels, which are just so fun to listen to.
Yeah, we have been incredibly fortunate to have such a great roster of talent and no shortage of presenters and media partners who are happy to moderate and get on board. We cater both to the trade audience as well as the consumer audience. So Thursday and Friday of the show, all of the programming is really geared more for the design community. And then Saturday and Sunday, the topics switch a little bit and are geared more to the homeowner. So we try to come up with fresh ideas, content that's new and timely, whether that be designing for outdoor spaces, things that also tie in with what is on the show floor. So there's that nice correlation between what you're learning about in a panel and then what you can go and see on the show floor.
So here in LA, you have a very active AD community. When it comes to panels, showcases, featured speakers, you have the Pacific Design Center, you have West Week and Fall Market, you have Diem with the West Hollywood Design District, you've got the La Cienega Design Quarter. So we've got a lot of events here. What I loved about West Edge is that you guys, it was a breath of fresh air. It was really it's just different from everything else that's been here in the past. Was that a conscious decision to look at what else was being presented and to say, okay, we're gonna go in a different direction, and here's what we think people want to see?
I think it was a very conscious decision to do so. We've been in the trade show business for 25 years collectively and have been to just about every trade show and convention center in the country and well beyond that. So when we came to the West Coast, we knew the vibe was much more casual. We didn't want to have a convention center environment, anything that was too stuffy. We wanted something that felt the opposite of a trade show. So something very entertaining, very social. We also wanted to make sure that the show looked more like a curated art fair than rows of random booths, exhibit booths. So I think the Barker Hangar was a perfect venue for us because we can use both the indoor and outdoor space. Our outdoor space is immensely popular with our attendees, but it was a very conscious decision. every year we want to continue to improve, but we like the direction the show has gone and the way it feels. We get so many compliments on that, so thank you for noticing.
Yeah, absolutely. It is cool to have both an indoor and an outdoor event because there's entertainment, there's speaking, so the speakeasy. This was my favorite part of the event this year. You worked with the Set Decorators Society of America, and they hosted the speakeasy, which was in the back. What a cool space.
You know what? It became a very cool space. The space that was utilized is tough to work with, and I think we really needed the set decorators who have such a great wealth of talent to transform that space. So it was a perfect fit for them. They partnered with Rob Report Home and Style, and that space in the back of the Barker Hangar has lower ceilings, a little cozier den-like, so we thought a speakeasy would be a perfect way to utilize that space and really create another feature area where people could engage and network and enjoy a cocktail.
Megan's being very generous with cozy and den-like. It's a very, very raw space, which we love, but it needed work to be a functional space for us. So yeah, they did a remarkable transformation. I don't think anyone would have believed if they had before and after side by side the way that they transform that space.
They're the perfect group for turning a space around so quickly because they do it every day in their day-to-day job. So we're actually considering how we can utilize that talent in other ways with our event because, we move in, we've got a very short time period to turn the space around and get it ready for the public and the trade. And the SDSA was just a breath of fresh air to work with all around.
So easy to get along with, and took direction well when they asked for direction, and it was a really great experience. We'd love to work with them again this year.
Yeah, that's great. Without sugarcoating it, because that's probably easy to sugarcoat it, a ton of work goes into this. When do you start planning? Do you start planning the day it's over?
We do.
We start planning while it's still going on.
Oh, do you?
Actually, yeah, because it's the best opportunity to see what works well and what didn't, and really do a walkthrough and kind of tweak things and make notes of what could be improved upon for the following year. So we get a little bit of downtime. We try to over the holidays, but it really does start from corporate sponsorship to media partner integration to making sure that we're on people's radars and calendars a year out for budget purposes.
I want to know how you're getting downtime after the show. I'm going to keep a closer eye on you, I think. Also, to Megan's point, which is a very good point, during the show we're hosting sponsors and exhibitors for the following year's show as well, which I neglected to think of. But yeah, it really is. It's a 365-day process. I don't think people really understand how much work goes into it when they see the fair because it comes in and goes away so quickly, but it's a major effort for sure.
And tell me about this too, because you've entered the world of editorial and content curation. So now that you're in your third year of this, are you being pitched? Do you get pitched panels? Where do you find your content?
We do. We actually launched a call for presentations last year because we had such an overwhelming level of interest in people wanting to speak and present, and we felt that we needed to formalize the process. So we have a call for presentations, which will actually be on our website next month, and that's a great way to get ideas and suggestions. We like to keep most of our programming a panel format so that it's really conversational in nature. And then, as you know, we work with 26 plus media partners. So having those editors involved, they are really the visionaries, and they know what's coming down the pipeline as far as content and trends and what the audience really wants to hear about and see. So we do rely significantly on our media partners to suggest ideas and really help with the content curation as well.
I think there's a lot of companies, too, that want a bigger piece of the LA market that aren't necessarily based here. We've been very fortunate because there really isn't an event like West Edge, this level of an event on the West Coast. And I think that the speakers, the prospective speakers, recognize the potential of the audience that they reach at our fair. So because we're a very unique event on the West Coast, I think that enables us to get a lot more interest than if we were in a market that's saturated with shows like New York or other venues.
Because you guys know, you both know the event space, the industry, the shelter space, event system as well as you do. How do you tell designers and architects how to best use your show? How to get the most out of it?
Well, there are so many ways. Designers and architects, we encourage all of our attendees, but especially the trade, to attend our programming. Oftentimes there's educational credits involved. It's those seminars are sponsored by industry associations that want to convey the most recent information to the A&D community. We also try to, in our marketing efforts, promote how much new product there is at the fair. In the case of West Edge, typically exhibitors participate for the purpose of showing new product. You won't find an exhibitor who's showing the same table and chairs year after year after year. So the A&D community, there's an incredible knowledge opportunity at a show like West Edge, not only product, but the presentations, and also they get to reunite with their colleagues who many of them likely never see except at events like this. So I'd say it's a very well-rounded opportunity for the trade.
And it's also about assisting our exhibitors how to engage that client and that trade audience well. So knowing the schedule, knowing the run of show, we often work with exhibitors to facilitate special events and different time slots where they can get their own invitations out and really engage that audience and let them know what's going to be on site and communicate with the trade audience before the show so that the trade can plan appropriately and really make the most of their time.
That's great. Do me a favor, scoot closer together. You're separating on me. No, scoot this way.
Oh.
A little bit. Perfect. Thank you. So that being said, let's wrap this up with a bow about the future. So tell me about the future of West Edge. You look at what you had this year, and Troy, you and I were talking before about I having seen the event this year and the previous 2 years, I thought this year was bigger than it was last year. I thought last year was bigger than it was before that. Turns out I was right. It was bigger.
You're right.
How do you predict? How do you watch what's out there and continue to grow a brand like this?
In a number of different ways, honestly. This year we launched a new section called Made Modern. The premise of it was based on something we did in New York several years ago, which was very successful, and that is focusing on independent designers and makers, which is a huge ongoing trend right now. It started a few years ago. But there is such a great interest in the limited edition, customizable type of products that these independent designers and makers do so well. So we curate everybody at the fair, but adding sections like Made Modern that address the demand in the marketplace right now, it's really, that's where our growth comes in. We certainly love the bigger corporate brands. Kitchen and bath is going to grow forever with all the technology being integrated into those types of products. The furniture, the continued interest in European-style furniture is going to be big for us as well. But I think it's we don't ever stop watching trend forecasts and what's happening in the industry. So I think so far we've been very fortunate to hit the mark. It's never perfect. We hope it never will be perfect. We always want to try and make it better. But I think that just recognizing what's going on in the business is really key.
Absolutely. And we get the nod of approval.
Yeah, of course,
Okay.
of course. And each year we do try to add new feature areas. So you mentioned the speakeasy. Troy mentioned Made Modern. We've got some ideas this year that we're really excited about that are in development, in discussions with some partners. So we always try to keep the core of the show and add new elements that keep it fresh and exciting for attendees to come year over year.
Very, very exciting opportunities in 2016 with some of our new feature areas.
And you know what? Speaking of that, I noticed this year, I can't remember if last year there was, but this year you had an automotive sponsor.
Mm-hmm. We did Volvo.
Right. And who are some of your other key sponsors?
Jen Air is a large sponsor and an exhibitor. So Jen Air sponsored our theater, which is the Masterclass Studio. Jen Air was also the sponsor of the fair's Wi-Fi service. Sumbrella sponsored our lounge this year, the Sumbrella Perspectives LA Lounge, with 5 vignettes from up-and-coming hot designers, which was a big hit at the show. Snyder Diamond has been an extraordinary supporter of ours since day one. They were once again a sponsor of ours this year.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even talked about our media partners, but the whole outdoor lounge was sponsored by multiple brands. So we had Tedeli Outdoor Furnishings. We had Modfire, Sticks and Stones, creating these great outdoor fire pits, which everyone enjoyed. And then we had Caliber Appliances doing grilling demonstrations and tastings. So we have a lot of great partners who pull things together and collaborate to outfit future areas and really make the attendee experience as engaging and entertaining as possible.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was one of the things that really stands out for me that I was going to mention too, is the collaboration that you do on behalf of the people who come to show up, the people who come out to see, the people who are participating. The collaboration really is great, and it felt seamless this year. So nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Nice of you to notice. I'd say.
And if you want to follow West Edge Design Fair, which you should, because it's going to happen again, whether you want it to or not. Here it comes.
We hope you want it to.
Of course you do.
Do we? Yes, we do, of course.
Well, listen, my biggest question for you is, have you planned on the day when you outgrow Barker Hangar? Because you kind of have to.
We're very fortunate. Of course, we've given that some thought, and we are planning a tentative expansion this year. Fortunately, at the Barker Hangar, we do have room to grow substantially. The hangar itself, obviously, you can't expand, but there's a significant amount of outdoor space and adjacent space where you can add connected structures, just more efficiently use that space. So we could actually double the footprint of West Edge at the Barker Hangar. We love the venue. We hope to be there for a long time. It's the ease of working in a non-union space like the Barker Hangar is great for us and our exhibitors. And our exhibitors, again, love the feel of the venue. Coming from a convention center in New York or Chicago to the Barker Hangar is a very nice transition.
It really is, and it's so cool. Hey, you know what's really great for broadcasting? Airplanes.
Yeah. Great for seminar presentations as well.
So thanks for that.
Yeah, you know what? It's par for the course. It's
character.
Yeah, it
is character.
It is, and all of our speakers, it starts to become humorous after a certain point. We feel like we need a sponsor who has great headphones. So maybe that's a category that we
Hello, Bose.
So
Exactly.
it's so funny you say that too, because in some of the panels in editing, and of course being there for them, you'll hear the plane coming, and then the speakers will just stop, and then the plane takes off, and then they just drop right back in where they were before. And you know what? It's really kind of cool.
We were so worried about that before the first year of West Edge, and much to our surprise, everyone got such a kick out of it. I mean, we really got almost nothing but really positive feedback. Not positive feedback, but no objections. No one wanted the planes there, but they didn't mind it.
It wasn't terrible. It was kind of, it's novel. It's novel, and it's very cool.
Good.
It's very
I'm glad
cool.
you liked it. I'm
Well,
glad
and
you feel that way.
it's in a hangar, so if you don't have airplanes, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I mean, what other show can you go to and sit on a lounge chair and watch planes go down the taxiway? It's a big selling point for us.
Exactly. It's great. It's great. Thank you guys for doing this. Follow West Edge Design on Twitter at West Edge Design. You are elsewhere too, I'm sure. Instagram.
We are on Instagram, West Edge Design. We're on Facebook as well. And our website is www.westedgedesignfair.com. This year, we are running November 3rd through the 6th, once again at the Barker Hangar. So stay tuned for further updates, and we hope you will all join us.
Outstanding. And as always, without you, the listener, there is no us. So thanks for listening.